Hello and welcome to AdAge's custom webcast sponsored by Mountain. The topic of today's webcast is machine-tested, marketer-approved, how AI can streamline the ad creative process. I'm John Dioso, editor of AdAge Studio 30, and I'll be your moderator today. With just a few quick items to go over before we begin. We'll hear from today's presenter, and then we'll open the floor to your questions. To participate in the Q&A portion of the webcast, all you have to do is type your question into the Ask a Question text area, and then click the send button. You may submit the questions at any time during the webcast, and we'll address as many as we can as time permits after our presenters' prepared remarks. Let's get started. I'm very pleased to present and introduce our speaker for today, Jacob Trussell. Jacob is the content marketing lead at Mountain. Hello, Jacob.
Hey, John. I'm the content marketing lead here at Mountain, and in one way or another, creativity has been at the core of my life and career. I started off as a professional stage actor, working in everything from regional and New York theater to touring children's shows, and even interactive performances on military bases that later inspired some classroom-based theater games that I taught to New York City teens in the East New York neighborhood of Brooklyn. So I later funneled this passion for creativity into writing. I've written everything from plays to short stories to columns on film acting and 2 books on pop culture, alongside, of course, all of the work I've created throughout my career as a marketer in tech. So long story short, my life has been built on creativity, which is why I want to talk about the big thing that's set to directly impact the creative world: generative artificial intelligence. Generative AI is easily the most discussed thing in the tech world right now. It's exciting and makes us feel like we're inching closer to some movie version of the future, but we've also got to call it like it is. The booming popularity of generative AI programs have clearly sent waves of anxiety through countless industries. But these emerging programs are just tools that can't match the level of creativity that you surround yourself with every day, either in person or remotely. And in the hands of creative marketers, these new tools of our trade help us produce creative work more effectively and streamline our own process. And I want to show you a few ways how to do that. So let's get into it. When ChatGPT first exploded onto the scene at the end of last year, the first few weeks of industry headlines all had this sort of doom and gloom vibe to them, with big, bold statements like, is AI here to replace human creativity? And how AI is radically changing our definition of human creativity. Now, it all sounds a bit hyperbolic, sure, but I do think the anxiety is justified, especially with news reports within the past year saying that a small number of companies have already cited Gen AI as a reason for layoffs. So while we know that AI is here to stay and will impact our jobs and lives, what we don't know is exactly how it will reshape the creative process, whether that's in marketing or advertising or just our own lives. Well, we don't know yet, at least. So all we can do is speculate. And the flames of speculation have often been fanned by those doomer-adjacent headlines beckoning AI's takeover of creativity. But is that really going to happen? Now, I say this not to downplay any anxiety that anyone may be feeling, because that feeling is real and understandable. But something interesting has happened during this period of unease. Perhaps as a way to sort of temper the nerves we may all be feeling, marketers and advertisers have been some of the first trailblazers to rush out and adopt generative AI programs for themselves. According to a survey from eMarketer, marketing and advertising is the top industry that is actively adopting generative AI in the workplace, followed closely by tech. And it makes sense, too. A part of our job as marketers and advertisers is remaining on the cutting edge, and what's more cutting edge in 2023 than AI? That means I'd wager a bet that many of you who are tuning in right now have used, are currently using, or will use AI for your work. And if you're currently using Gen AI, then you probably already know exactly what I'm going to say next. There's really no way these programs will ever be able to match the nuanced, surprising creativity that you can only get from a human. I sometimes think of it like the graphics of a video game. No matter how lifelike characters become, I don't think they'll ever be able to convey the complexity of emotions that can be expressed by an actual human face. But still, this AI anxiety persists, in part because we don't yet know how these programs will improve and evolve, and if that evolution will ultimately impact our lives even more in the future. But whatever the future has in hold for AI, personally, I'm rushing to meet it, which is why a quote I stumbled across from futurist Roy Amara really resonated with me. It says, "We tend to overestimate the effect of technology in the short run and underestimate the effect in the long run." Now, to put that into the context of this discussion, it feels like AI is impacting every aspect of the world today. And sort of like that Harry Nilsson song, everyone can't stop talking about what its lasting effects might be. I mean, guilty as charged. Here I am right now talking to you about just that. But all of the noise happening right now around generative AI and how it will impact human creatives may ultimately come to feel overblown, as Amara put it, in the short run. But what about in the long run? Now, not to speak on behalf of all the creative marketers in the room, but I don't think we're underestimating the long run effects of AI, because we may already be feeling the benefits these programs bring to our jobs. Since us marketers are some of the first to adopt this tech, we've also been some of the first to start finding ways to apply the technology as it exists today, helping us streamline our own personal creative process while also giving us back much needed time and mental energy that we can reinvest into other aspects of our jobs and our lives. So we, creative marketers, are proving right out of the gate that AI isn't a replacement for human creative jobs, but powerful tools that can help us create more easily and effectively than ever before. So AI is a tool, but let's be real, it also feels a little bit like a toy too. I mean, messing around with AI can be just a lot of fun. I've had some hilariously bizarre conversations with ChatGPT, and I've loved seeing all the different ways artists have used these programs to create truly remarkable fan art that, dares to ask the question, what if cult filmmaker Alejandro Jodorowsky directed Disney's family-friendly sci-fi video game movie Tron? Now, I make this digression because for off-the-clock fun, AI is 1000% a toy you can play with. But in a work environment, AI can't be viewed as this fun little gadget. It's got to be seen as a powerful creative tool. Now, to illustrate why it's a tool and not this be-all, end-all creative solution, I want to share a metaphor Mountain's Director of Content and Research, Tim Edmondson, used in some of our team's earlier discussions about generative AI. Now, as Tim described, if Gen AI is a tool, think of it like a hammer. On its own, a hammer is still powerful and valuable, but the tool will not drive in a single nail until a human hand touches it. I mean, after all, it's just an inanimate object that requires an outside force to make it work effectively. Now, to go a step further, once you pick up that hammer, you have a choice to make. Now, you could either grasp it tightly in your hand, like a normal person, or you could just hold it between your thumb and forefinger and just sort of casually drop it on the nail, hoping the weight of the tool will be the most effective way to use it. And I'm just going to say that if you're relying on gravity to hammer a nail, I don't think you're ever going to host a home renovation reality show unless, that reality show is about poorly constructed homes. So if generative AI is the hammer, then creative marketers are the hand. Hammers are tools that make your job a million times easier, but it won't work to its full effect until you have a firm hold on that tool, controlling exactly where it should go. And while you could drop the hammer on the nail and say, job completed, your final product is just going to be so much better if you have a 5-fingered grip on it. So in other words, marketers need to keep a strong hand when using Gen AI tools for creative projects. If they just let the machines run wild with little creative oversight, they're going to be sorely disappointed using Gen AI tools as the sole content creator on their team. Now, I want to share with you a few different ways you can currently use generative AI tools to augment and streamline the creative process. Now, even if you're not a creative yourself, these applications will give you a peek behind the curtain of how and why the human touch is the invaluable element that makes generative AI tools effective for marketing and advertising. So, as any writer knows, there's really nothing more nerve-wracking than the blank page. It's like there's just so many possibilities and directions you can take a single line of copy or an entire campaign in that it can very quickly feel overwhelming. And you just want to close your laptop, bury yourself under a weighted blanket, and stream Frasier for the fifth time. But now that I'm saying that out loud, maybe that's just me. But there's this blank page killer in town, and it goes by the name ChatGPT. Now, tools like these have quickly revolutionized the speed in which creative marketers can really come up with new ideas. Now, with a few simple text prompts that are specific, we can easily generate a list of ideas to use as conceptual starting points, filling that blank page in a flash. Now, if you've been using AI in any aspect of your job, I bet that this is it. Now, more likely than not, most of the responses you get back will be unusable right out of the box, but it will give you language and words to look at and play with, and importantly, make your own. Now, let me show you how this works in practice. So, say you're a subscription meal delivery service branching out into, I don't know, connected TV. Now, you want to run a brand awareness campaign to promote a new feature of your service. You know you want to target millennials and Gen Z, and you want to leverage the style of humor popular on TikTok. Now, there's a lot of different directions you could take, but if you feed this prompt into ChatGPT, you'll get an assortment of options you can instantly, almost instantly at least, quickly refine and iterate on. Now, here's an excerpt of what the machines gave me back after entering this prompt. The Lazy Cook features a young, overworked professional who doesn't have time to cook but wants healthy gourmet meals. They try the meal delivery service and love the convenience and deliciousness. The ad could feature a humorous montage of the protagonist attempting to cook and failing miserably with TikTok-style music and jump cuts. All right, not bad. Now, here is another one. The Busy Student. With the demands of school, work, and life, many college students struggle to find in time to cook healthy meals. This ad could feature a protagonist who is always on the go, but discovers the meal delivery service and is thrilled to find healthy, delicious options that fit their busy lifestyle. This ad could use humor and wit, similar to popular TikTok trends. Now, as you can see, the machines gave me pretty solid choices that I can brainstorm off of to generate even more ideas. For instance, what if with the first response, we see the chef, comically cooking while lounging on their couch, pots and pans and chopped vegetables flying in and out of the frame like, I don't know, some riff on the cinematic styles of Wes Anderson or Michel Gondry, all humorously conveying how easy it is to make meals with this service. Now, I wouldn't have had this idea if ChatGPT didn't give me those three simple words first: the lazy cook. But here's one drawback on only relying on Gen AI to do the creative heavy lifting. In my prompt, I specifically asked for ideas that lean into TikTok's style of humor. But as you'll see in the responses, the programs didn't really give me anything tangible to work with. It can say this ad could use humor popular on TikTok, but it couldn't tell me what that humor could or should actually look or sound like. Now, this is one reason why you really can't afford to replace human creativity as AI becomes more integrated into the creative worlds of marketing and advertising. And you got to remember, Gen AI only spits out what is already crawled and consumed across the web. All of these ideas ChatGPT and the like produce, these are just reconfigurations and remixes of thoughts and concepts that already exist in the digital ether and most likely already exist in different pockets of your marketing team too. All right, hard truth time, y'all. Just because all marketers want to be exceptional storytellers does not mean all marketers are actually exceptional storytellers. Hey, sometimes you've got a great hook, but have no idea where to go next. Or, a brilliant CTA, but no real clue of the best way to build up to it. And this is another place AI can be a big boon for the copywriters on your team. They can essentially act as a writing partner, helping work out the story beats that an ad needs. Now, let's jump into another machine-driven example. So I told ChatGPT that I wanted to create a video for a line of cosmetics. Now, I provided an opening hook for them. It starts with a person looking at the reflection in a makeup compact, and just a general idea for an ending. We see them spending a night on the town. So here is a selection of what they gave me back for that middle section. So number one, this reflection in the makeup compact suddenly starts talking to the person, offering them beauty advice and product recommendations. The person is surprised at first, but quickly gets excited and follows the advice. All right, not bad. Sentient makeup contact. I'm here for it. All right, let's see what else they can come up with. Number two, the person starts applying the makeup, but suddenly realizes they have no idea what they're doing. They turn to YouTube and get lost in a hilarious rabbit hole of makeup tutorials before finally figuring out how to apply their new products. Now, some of the phrasing may be a little bit wonky, but hey, these are solid creative options for really what could have been a pretty basic video. But this continues to drill into my point that you need creatives in charge of generating these concepts. Because while in that example, I gave a rather straightforward prompt to the program, let's see what happens when we give it something a touch more creative. So I told ChatGPT that I'm working on a TV ad for a food delivery service with the goal of making new customers aware of our business in a funny, weird way. I know I wanted to start with a dog in a pizza delivery costume, but I don't know what the middle and ending action could be. Could you give me a few options for what comes next? So here's an excerpt of what I got back from what I've been calling the Peter Pupper's pizza delivery concept. So the middle action. The dog in the pizza delivery costume is driving a delivery car and pulls up to a customer's house. The customer comes out to receive their pizza, but is shocked to see a dog driving the car. The dog barks excitedly and hands the pizza to the customer. All right, not bad. So let's see what they gave me for the ending action. The customer smiles and takes the pizza, thanking the dog. The camera then shows a series of increasingly absurd scenarios, such as a dog running an entire pizza restaurant or a pack of dogs delivering pizzas on roller skates. A voiceover comes over and says something like, "Our delivery is so fast, even dogs can do it." Now, while I definitely want to adjust that final tagline, as you can see, because I explicitly asked for a strange scenario, it gave me back something equally weird. I just mentioned a dog in a costume, and it gave me back a pack of small business owners just trying to make ends meet, slinging pies while still being, dogs. So, long story short, if you're planning to employ AI tools within the workflows of your marketing team, you're just going to get far more interesting results if creative copywriters and designers are still driving that overarching vision of the campaign. So I'm always ridiculously impressed by our design team's artistic abilities because I myself am terrible at creating any and all things visual art. Now, I can wrap my head around language, but quick visualizations for me are a little more than digital stick figures. But sometimes when I'm crafting a narrative, I do have key images in mind of what each scene looks like. They sort of play out like a movie in my head with specific angles and actions and set pieces that I want to convey to the people who will actually bring those images to life. But because of my lack of visual artistic abilities, all I can do is try and communicate what I want with language. And as the old saying goes, pictures are worth 1,000 words. And this is where DALL-E 2, Midjourney, and all of those other visual AI tools come in handy for more textual creatives like myself. With a simple, specific prompt, we can get an almost instant visualization of what's in our heads. Now, often these tools can produce wildly captivating images that can be used as a source of inspiration for marketers with a less than artistic eye, as well as a tool to better collaborate with visual artists or communicate creative direction to other teams. But these visualizations are far and away not the final product, nor should they ever be the final product. They simply give creatives new ways of communicating with each other. Because as much as I can describe with words what I want to see in a visual, it would really be so much easier if I can just give them a rough image of what I had in mind that, maybe wasn't created in MS Paint. Now, not only that, but with concise, descriptive text prompts, these tools can be used as practical, cost-effective ways to generate quick turnaround storyboards for ads. So, a quick definition for those not in the know. A storyboard is a visual representation of your script, laying out scene by scene the way your ad will look on screen. Now, you've probably heard this term used in relation with movies and TV shows, and they're just as important in the ad creative process too. So say your TV ad will have 3 scenes. You can generate a text prompt for each, detailing the image that you have in mind, and use that resulting generated visual as a starting place for what you want your ads to ultimately look like. So let's put this back into practice. So I took my Peter Pupper's pizza delivery concept from the last example, and I wrote 6 different prompts for 6 individual scenes. I then fed each prompt into a visual generative AI tool to make 6 images that I could use to create a storyboard. Now, here are the results. So, despite the uncanny valley glossiness of some of the dogs here, the results really speak for themselves. These are fantastic and easily produced visual references that effectively convey the creative idea that ChatGPT and I developed together in that last example. Now we see a delivery car drive by, out pops Peter Pupper with a pizza. The person receives a pie, gives the pupper a tip, in this case, some head scratches, before Petey zooms back to the shop and we go inside this proud Pupper's Pizza business. As other human creatives come on board to bring this concept to reality, the ad would naturally change, be refined, and come better and stronger. But the video creation process would ultimately have been accelerated thanks to the creative touchstones I was able to generate with AI. Now, it should be said that using AI to generate storyboards is primarily useful for smaller brands or marketing teams who don't have graphic designers or animators on staff, or who may not have the budget to hire a video production partner who can handle storyboards and visualizations. Now, if you do have artists on your team, lean on them, full stop. Now, just to note, while it's recommended you integrate generative AI visual tools into your creative workflows, that does not mean you should rely solely on these same tools to create your final ad. Now, 2 recent surveys from Big Village actually support that suggestion. One report discovered that only 19% of consumers found marketing and advertising content that used AI images appealing. Another survey on consumer attitudes towards the usage of generative AI in social media advertising found an overwhelming 48% believe it should not be used, compared to 25% who believe it should be used. So right now, generative AI is just too entrenched in the uncanny valley to be truly appealing to mass audiences. The images AI creates may look like people, but only kind of, sort of. Case in point, those AI-generated soda and pizza commercials that went viral in recent months. Now, these fake ads went viral not because they were made by AI, though that was a big part of it, but because of how genuinely horrifying these ads looked. Now, that may work for the next seasonal ad campaign for, Spirit Halloween, but I think it's safe to say that terrifying your audience should be last on your list of things you want your audiences to feel after watching your ads. So as the machines evolve, so will their capabilities for streamlining marketers' personal creative process. Now, recently, some companies have announced tools that would help businesses make sort of quick-turn TV ads through generative AI. Now, this would be a big boon for smaller brands with limited resources who are still looking for some more cost-effective ways to get into the TV ad game. Now, generative AI will bring about a whole new class of video creators, regardless of skill level. But what it will really do, if this entire presentation didn't make this resoundingly clear, is make existing video professionals significantly more productive. And we believe our recently announced innovative video creative platform, Mountain Viva, will help do just that. Now, Viva fast tracks creative by combining leading AI platforms and tools together into a single intuitive interface where users can create, mix, and remix elements like generative video and audio, stock footage, and their own existing assets. Basically, if you can edit a video you created on your phone, you can edit a video with Viva. It makes generative, stock, and brand's own video completely interchangeable. But don't look at generative tools like this as the entire toolbox for producing ads. It, like everything else, is just one tool in your creative stack that includes the human marketers that make up your team. In and of itself, using AI tools can feel like risk-taking. But let's not mix up who is really taking the risks here. Now, within a vacuum, it can feel like all of the creative risks being taken with something like the Jodorowsky directs Tron images are coming from the AI programs themselves. After all, what we're often seeing from these programs are interesting gonzo responses and images that are sometimes so striking that, honestly, it can feel like a threat to our own personal creativity. But let's not give the machines credit for credit they're not due. Because the creative catalyst that made those images didn't come from the programs being brilliant. It came from the clever creative person who said to themselves, you know what? I bet the dude who made all those cult midnight movies in the 80s would have directed a wild version of that Disney video game movie from the 80s. Now, connecting these two dots together, Jodorowsky and Disney, that's the true creative spark, not the generated images. In other words, the risk in this creative example wasn't born organically from the AI. It came out of the human who used the program. AI doesn't take risks. We do. That's what makes us creative marketers so irreplaceable. And in our potentially AI-driven future where everyone is using these tools, what do you think the key differentiator will be? I bet it's going to be how clever the creative people on your team are. And I'd go so far as to say that they're already pretty ridiculously clever. Now, to put a coda on this creative conversation, let's step out of the realm of artistry and into the more technology-driven side of this equation for a moment. Now, AI is a powerful tool for creatives, but it's also an equally strong tool for maximizing the impact of your creative by using real-time data to make decisions about how your ad is deployed and optimized. Now, for instance, AI can be very good at handling at-scale media buying and performance optimization, which routinely requires large volumes of data and complex algorithms that AI is able to analyze and act on more efficiently than if it was being done manually by a marketer. Now, these automated optimizations ultimately allow marketers to offload more time-consuming tasks to AI systems, freeing up more of their own time and resources to focus on, other crucial aspects of their job. All of this, of course, is really not dissimilar to how AI streamlines the creative process, giving marketers back time to think about, big picture or to just plow through general tasks more effectively. Now, by automating these media processes, AI streamlines operations and enhances efficiency in managing digital ad campaigns. This is an option for all digital channels, including connected TV. AI can play a vital role in CTV ad campaigns by leveraging real-time data to target relevant audiences, optimize ad placements, and monitor performance. By harnessing AI's capabilities, marketers can effectively navigate the complexities of CTV advertising and ensure their ads are delivered to, the right viewers at the right time. So these are just some of the initial ways Gen AI tools are streamlining and enhancing the ways in which we create today. Suffice to say, generative AI is already changing the way marketers accomplish their jobs. And that presents both a challenge and an opportunity for the creatives on your team now and in the future. The challenge is, integrating these tools to make ourselves more effective at our jobs. And the opportunity is that these tools can improve our own creative capabilities in tandem. And it's all made possible through this boom of AI tools like ChatGPT and DALL-E 2 that have helped creative marketers ideate and create ads faster and more effectively than ever before. But even though AI tools are, onboarding a whole new slew of rules and best practices for producing ad creative, these tools are just that, tools. A hammer can't build a house by itself, nor can an AI program produce a quality ad all on its own. You need the cleverness and creativity of that living, breathing human marketer to make that happen. Now, AI may be able to replicate a lot of things, but human creativity is something I don't think they'll ever be able to match. John, I'm going to tag you back in now so we can dive into some audience questions.
All right, I'm ready. And Jacob, that was terrific. We are ready to open the floor to questions. As a reminder, if you still want to send some in, go ahead. To participate in the Q&A, all you need to do is type your question to the Ask a Question text area and then click the send button. But we already have a few in here, so let's get to them. First one. Okay, you were talking about the creativity and the humanity behind this, behind everything we're doing. What role do human emotions and instincts play in the creative process and the development of impactful and relatable ad campaigns? And how can AI tools support or complement this? So, leaning on the humanity and their own creativity, but how can AI help complement and support that?
Yeah, what makes any art good? It makes you feel an emotion through something specific, whether that's, the swirling brushstrokes of Van Gogh's Starry Night or a verse of poetry that, underlines a quirk of the human condition that we're surprised is so relatable. Now, this artistic desire to fill the world with specifics of the human experience and humanity, that's at the foundation of any creative process, including in ad campaigns. Because what really resonates with us in the world of, fictionalized storytelling and really in our own lives, that can resonate with us in the form of an ad. And the way that AI can really support this really goes back to my point about crafting narratives. AI can become one of your closest creative collaborators, a tool that you can really use whenever you want to explore each individual thread of an idea you have as far as you want to go with it. And then after that sort of, spitballing brainstorm phase you can do with an AI, then you get to use your own personal creative instincts, the things that resonate with you that makes you say, oh, I bet this is going to resonate with some other audiences, or I bet this is something that's universal that will speak to someone. Once you're there, you can make that creative decision, and that's going to become the direction of your story and your campaign.
I think it really does reinforce what you were saying before about AI being just another high-tech tool. It's just another version, maybe more advanced tool that it depends on who's using the tool. I think one of the points you kept reinforcing throughout the presentation. I think the second question kind of is related to the first one. And it's another thing that I was thinking of. And the question is, what can marketers do to continually improve the quality and creativity of the content they generate with AI? And I was thinking, in the interest of time, with the examples that you gave during the presentation, you gave relatively short prompts. You can get to show what ChatGPT would spit out in response to those prompts. But can you actually, we've heard of people or of teams teaching their generative AI platforms, what you're putting in. It's like, again, it goes to the same concept behind creating something. It's whatever you put into it. That's the output really depends on what you're putting into it. So how can what can marketers do to improve the quality and creativity of the AI?
No, I think you hit like right on the money there. Like, no doubt there are these like foundational nuggets of info that you want to convey, like that you're always conveying. Like this is your tagline, this is your go-to elevator pitch that you've been playing with and figuring out. And what you can do, theoretically, as all of these programs are still in this really nascent phase, in a sort of single chat message with an AI program like ChatGPT, you could theoretically throw in all of this brand voice information, all of these guidelines, all of this, and frankly, ask the program to analyze it. to tell you what they're seeing, so that then you can go in and make redirections of saying, well, actually, we're a little bit more loose with our language, or maybe think about it in this way. And through that single chat message, the program will continue to understand and learn and learn. And then, as they're reanalyzing the copy, then when you have some very specific text prompts, you can then ask the program to try generating copy in that brand voice. Now, the thing is, they're just simply not going to knock it out of the park. They may be able to really help you turn over stones to find new ways to phrase or speak to really like those core talking points. But AI still needs that really keen human eye and steady hand to ensure that your brand voice isn't missing the mark. But you can feed into these tools as much information as you have and that you can to get them closer and closer to hitting the mark, than having to go back through and constantly make these iterations. But I'm certain in the future these things will just improve and get more complex and better and more useful for marketers and advertisers.
Are there any limitations to how much you can teach, or how much content you can feed into an AI platform to teach it these things? Like, do you have to go through different iterations? Like, for example, you were mentioning how you're tailoring your message or tailoring your inputs into it in such a way so you're kind of giving it more direction, more creative direction as you're moving. Do you have to figure that out all at once? Is it, are you literally kind of just starting from scratch every time you work on a new project with this platform? So in other words, does it remember what it did the previous iteration?
Well, hence why I said going to that single chat message. Currently in ChatGPT's open state, that's the way that you can continue to work within the sort of the learnings that you've been feeding into them. So rather than starting a completely new chat window, you can just go back to that same one. And that, what I would say, is one of the current big limitations, especially when using it in sort of this format as a marketer and advertiser. But I think one of the biggest limitations right now is just the fact that ChatGPT are only spitting out what they've crawled on the internet up to a certain year. I can't remember exactly the year, but it's certain enough that you can really tell that AI's scope is currently pretty limited when you compare it to, the whole expansive knowledge of the human mind. Plus, as news reports have shown, AI doesn't always get things right. Sometimes it gets stuff completely wrong, which is why you need to be constantly QAing the content that AI helps you generate so that you really don't accidentally get yourself into hot water by putting a little too much faith in AI's understanding of the world. So really it is that of you're constantly trying to lead it by the hand while also keeping an eye out to make sure that you didn't lose them in the crowd.
And I love how you emphasize that during the presentation, because I think that because of the a lot of the fear out there that's surrounding AI and, what you've seen in the media and all those stories, there's this assumption that you're losing control of the project or your own creative work by using a tool like this, when in actuality, you're in complete control. And, and at least for now, the AI hasn't divulged enough. We'll get to that another time. Maybe that'll be the next webcast. I have another great question that just popped in, and it's, since AI is just starting to develop, do you think it's possible for it to grow and improve? So here we go. So much more that it could begin to be a threat to marketers. There's the fear.
I mean, yeah, that fear is there. We don't yet know exactly how these programs are going to improve and evolve, but we can probably say that they will continue to improve and evolve and get better and feel more and more like a threat as it gets better at doing these things, which is on one hand why I think it's so important for marketers and advertisers to really get in on the ground floor of using these tools within your creative process, because you're intertwining yourself with the program so that you become indispensable together. And also going back to sort of that video game example I mentioned too, think about how long it took us to go from Pac-Man to, for instance, The Last of Us, which has wild cinematic visuals and everything. That was, 20, 30 plus years. Could be 20 to 30 plus years before we get AI to the point where it can truly actually mimic a creative idea that feels fresh and new, like it came from a human mind. But much like, modern day AAA video game graphics, they look like people, but they still don't really look like actual living, breathing humans. It's not a live action movie that we're seeing. And I don't know if video games ever will or ever want to get to that point. And while I can't say that that programs and entrepreneurs won't want to get AI to an extent where it really does sound like a human, but I just don't know if that will ever truly happen. But also, don't hold me to that. Like, I don't know what's going to happen.
I know it's developing as
decades.
we speak. That's right.
But I do think that it's going to be quite some time, and any sort of, early fears, I think we can take some solace in knowing that it's going to be a while before AI programs can really do what we do.
And here's a great question that I've heard a lot. I think this is a topic that's coming up a lot. You hear of published authors and other celebrities, anybody who creates content otherwise, suing, the owners of ChatGPT, et cetera, for copyright violations. And the question is, are the language models that trawl, since they all trawl what already exists, what's the risk of violating copyright? So that's definitely something to watch out for.
Oh, I completely agree. And I think that's easily one of the biggest red flags for AI right now. These are those early problems with any sort of tech that have to be parsed through in their like really early nascent stage. But I think it also goes back to just really that big thing that I've been reinforcing of this close collaboration between marketers controlling the AI programs. You should never be running AI creative or copy that you've made without passing it through some sort of human QA, because most likely than not, the moment you start getting more eyes into that creative, the more likely that someone on your team is going to say, well, wait a minute, this sounds familiar, or I think I've heard this somewhere else, or this feels almost too good to be true. Let's make sure that it wasn't stolen from somewhere else. So especially in these early phases of AI, you really can't put all of your faith in it. You can't put all your trust in it thinking that it's going to do precisely what you're going to do without getting you into potentially some hot water. I think we should all feel a little nervous about using AI tools and creating copy with it. And I think that sort of, hesitation and awareness of the pitfalls and the problems that you can run into it, we should always have those things at the front of our mind so that we're not finding ourselves with a paragraph of copy that is from someone else that didn't give us permission to do it. And constant QAing, that constant human role, that's gonna be the secret sauce of using AI, especially over the next probably 1 to 5 years.
Right. Are there any other maybe warnings is too strong or scary a word. Are there any other things that marketers should be aware of or careful about when they're using this type of tool for creative work?
For sure. Yeah. Warnings, red flags, whichever way we want to describe it. I think really that old adage holds true. If it's too good to be true, probably is. Like any hot new tech, you're going to have a lot of legitimate players doing really great things, putting out really cool new products that you want to try. And there's going to be a lot of products out there that maybe you don't want to try, or maybe they're over promising something that AI can't really do just yet. So really be wary of those solutions that send up those warning signs to you. Trust your gut with anything in tech. I mean, from anything over the past 2.5 years that we've seen flare up really fast and burn out just as fast, listen to your gut and trust the instincts, your creative instincts, trust those professional instincts too, of like, maybe this is doing something that it can't possibly do. So especially with creative ones, like if they're promising high performing outcomes without any human element needed, maybe that's a red flag. As we discussed, these AI tools, they can do really, really remarkable things, but they're still limited, and nothing can replace this human element of creativity. So look towards artists and creatives and video professionals and animators, whoever you want to work with. Look towards them to see what type of AI programs they might be using, what AI tools they are using to guide and assist their creative mind rather than just, replacing it.
And that's another point, right? Is that it's not just ChatGPT, that there are numerous other platforms out there, and they're all being developed by whoever's developing them. And again, it goes back to that human creativity, or like whoever's doing the programming, whoever's feeding that type of information or teaching it how to be creative or what things to look for. It really does depend on the various platforms and the various partners. Is that true?
I completely agree. And I feel like what we have here is just that early set, the early .com pre-boom set of things and people. And currently, like, we're using ChatGPT almost synonymously with the word of like generative AI chatbots. But no doubt, especially with all of these, plagiarism scandals and all of the problems that are really plaguing these early iterations of AI programs that we have at this stage, there could be the potential for someone 2-3 years from now that introduces a program that learned from all the mistakes, that is a better, more complex and useful version of this tool. But I agree, it's really going to depend on who's putting these tools out and sort of where their, personal and creative ethos is at. How are they getting their data? Where is it coming from? Do you want to be using a program that's taking data from a specific place? Do you want to be more privacy friendly when you're thinking about the type of programs that you're using? Like, there's so many open-ended questions that we're still talking about and we're still discussing. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing some of these answers from the industry over the next few years. But I think that's what makes this sort of an exciting stage. Like, we are really, we just watched the rocket launch to the moon, and now we're waiting to figure out what the next Apollo mission is going to be. Like, there's just a lot to be excited about, a lot to be wary of, a lot to be nervous about. But I think there's just so many useful benefits we can have from these AI tools. And the fact that we're probably going to be using these AI tools so much in the future, I'm glad that I'm learning how to use them now,
Right. Jodorowsky's mission to Mars.
Yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned I wanted to hit on something. I had a follow-up question for something you mentioned almost at the end of the presentation, where you talked about using AI not just as a creative tool, but there's a huge use being focused on using it to generate or gather data and to be able to use that data, and then marketers using the data that is gathered through AI. What about taking that data? How can they use that to help generate creative ideas based on that data that comes in?
Absolutely. So when you are going through performance optimizations and you are, you're refining down to that like one creative, the one thing that's really, pushing all of the needles for all of your campaigns. What you also have in there is a slew of ads that didn't play, that didn't land, that didn't push anything for you. So you have these two different use cases. You have the success and you have the, for lack of a better word, failure. Now, with those failures and with that success, you sort of have almost like a Venn diagram of possibilities, of things that worked, things that didn't, things that you can refine on. All of this data can be brought into your creative conversations that you're having, either in that initial brainstorming concept building phase, or even as you're moving into pre-productions and you're talking about copy and you're talking about scripts and you're seeing that, oh, well, I didn't know that the 35 to 55-year-old age range is actually really hitting it out of the park for me. So maybe I can pull back on some of my more Gen Z flavored language and replace it with more, millennial and Gen X friendly language. These are those things and those ideas that you can get from just reviewing all of this data. And because these things are happening so fast, thanks to AI, you're able to move on those creative decisions even faster too. Oh, this ad isn't working, got to swap it out. What's the reason why? Is it the CTA? Are they not watching through to the first 5 seconds? Oh, perfect. I'll take all of that information and I'll use it to iterate to a new ad. Doesn't mean you have to, shoot and produce an entire new ad with new creative and new actors and sets and stuff. You can simply repurpose and re-edit existing footage into creative that feels net new, so that you're continuing to perhaps carry a cohesive story across your efforts, but you're constantly giving slight iterations and slight improvement, thanks to frankly, in some ways, the expediency that you're getting from AI's moves within these sort of more technical data side of the ad creative equation.
All right, we have time for one more question, and it's a pretty heady one, so you can take your time with it. It's, as AI tools become more advanced, how do you foresee the role of human creativity evolving in the field of advertising and marketing? So take that wherever you want to go.
Yeah. So I really think that the way that AI is going to continue to evolve creativity is that it's just going to make us get to our benchmarks faster. So for instance, AI has already made me a better and faster copywriter because I'm using it just like it's a thesaurus or a dictionary. Like, for instance, I don't have pitch perfect grammar. I didn't go to school for writing. This is something that I've figured out within my career. So I'm constantly second guessing myself and thinking, ooh, is this grammatically correct? Is this, am I using prepositional phrases correctly? All of those big, larger questions that maybe I forgot from high school, I now have a big old program I can use to ask simple questions like, does this sentence make grammatical sense? And that, I think, is the way that it's really going to enhance and augment our creative process. It's really just going to build us up. It's like, a lot of people, they might hit a specific style or they might hit a specific plateau and they just want to stick with that. They know what works. They know they've got it. They're not looking to really improve because they think they have no way else to improve. But I think if creatives did that, we would sort of be turning into glass. Like, we need to be constantly iterating and educating ourselves. And working with these programs will help us do that faster. And for me personally, like, it really helps. It's like a tutor. Like, I can ask these questions and I can help understand, like, oh, right, I did learn this in high school. But, within that same sort of realm too of just like the expediency, it also helps expedite my research too. I can really throw ideas in there. And then when they inevitably give me back completely wrong information, I can then go into another, Google and Wikipedia and do all my additional follow-up work to be like, oh yeah, no, this horror movie director didn't direct the Coca-Cola commercial from the 70s. Like, I can use those things to help like really move through this research that sometimes might take me a long time to start. But really, I think the way that it's going to help evolve creativity is just help us be more educated and understanding and learning, constantly learning. We're not going to just hit something and stick with it. We're going to just continue to get better and better. So I think really it's just going to help us continue to do all the good stuff that we already do.
So like the internet was or continues to be, it's almost like it could be almost another extension of our brain, the way that we do things, and it just helps us do other things faster. So it takes care of a lot of the, the drudge work, the drudgery that we often have to do and search through books or just, do the better Google search or whatever it is. It could just be another thing that helps us get to where we want to go quicker.
Oh, precisely. And I think people might be nervous about hearing AI as like a second brain for ourselves, but it really is just like
the singularity is here.
Exactly. We've already been having the same thoughts, it's been here. But yeah, no, I think really we just need to continue to view it as an extension from ourselves, a tool, the handle of a hammer, that's the extension of ourselves. And it's the same thing, just in a completely new, interesting, scary, and exciting format.
Well, this has been a terrific presentation and conversation, Jacob. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been really great, and I've loved talking about anything involving creativity.
Me too. And thank you, everybody out there, for watching. Thank you for attending Ad Age's custom webcast sponsored by Mountain. And a reminder, you can also view and listen to this presentation on demand using the same link that you used to attend today. You'll receive an email as soon as the archive is ready, as well as a copy of the report. On behalf of our guest, Jacob Trussell from Mountain, thank you so much for your time and have a great day.